Second Ezra is a book that's rarely talked about, often overshadowed by more familiar apocalyptic prophecies like Revelation. But unlike any other text, Second Ezra dares to ask the uncomfortable questions. Why do the righteous suffer? Is there hope beyond the chaos? And most disturbingly, what if we're already living through the beginning of the end? In this video, we're uncovering the long-lost secrets of Second Ezra, a hidden book within the Apocrypha that might just hold the most compelling clues about how the end times will unfold. The ancient visions within it echo the fears of today: environmental disasters, global unrest, and the collapse of societies. But there's one secret in Second Ezra that hasn't been widely discussed. A prophecy that reveals something shocking about what happens after the world burns. Stay tuned, because we'll not only explore the dark prophecies of Second Ezra, but also dive into its most profound mystery, a revelation that could change how we view the future. Background on Second Ezra. Before diving into the prophetic visions of Second Ezra, it's important to understand what this text is and the context in which it was written. Known in some traditions as 4 Ezra, this ancient book is part of the Apocrypha, collection of religious writings that didn't make it into the final version of the Bible. While not considered canonical by most Christian traditions, Second Ezra holds a significant place in Jewish and Christian apocalyptic literature. The book itself was written in a time of great turmoil, likely around the late 1st century CE, after the destruction of the Second Temple in Jerusalem. This was a period of immense crisis for the Jewish people, and Second Ezra reflects the existential questions and spiritual struggles of a community grappling with loss and the seeming absence of divine intervention. The text gives voice to those living in the aftermath of a disaster, searching for answers and trying to understand God's plan in the midst of suffering. The structure of Second Ezra is unique. The book is composed of 7 visions or dialogues between the prophet Ezra and God. These visions reveal the fate of humanity, with particular focus on the end times, divine judgment, and the eventual restoration of the world. Throughout these exchanges, Ezra, acting as a representative of the people, poses difficult questions to God, reflecting the doubt and uncertainty that many must have felt in that era. What makes Second Ezra stand out among other apocalyptic texts is its emphasis on dialogue and the deeply personal nature of Ezra's quest for understanding. This isn't just a narrative of destruction. It's a conversation about justice, suffering, and hope. Ezra consistently questions God about why the righteous suffer while the wicked prosper. His questions are raw, emotional, and deeply human, capturing the frustration many feel in times of crisis. The first half of the book, chapters 3 to 14, is centered around Ezra's dialogues and visions, while the second half, chapters 15 to 16, takes a more prophetic tone, foretelling cataclysmic events and divine punishment that will befall the world. It's a grim depiction of the future, filled with images of famine, war, and widespread destruction. Yet even in the midst of these bleak prophecies, there is a glimmer of hope, a promise that after the chaos, there will be renewal. Another unique feature of Second Ezra is its role within different religious traditions. In some Christian Bibles, particularly in Eastern Orthodox and some Roman Catholic traditions, Second Ezra is known as 4 Ezra and is placed within the Apocrypha. In Jewish tradition, however, it is usually excluded from the biblical canon but has been preserved through various manuscripts and translations. This dual identity, being both a Jewish and Christian text, adds to its complexity and mystery. The themes of Second Ezra, the end times, divine judgment, the struggle between good and evil, are familiar to anyone who has studied apocalyptic literature. Yet this text offers a unique perspective. It places the reader in the position of Ezra, a prophet and seeker who, like many of us, wrestles with the difficult questions of why suffering exists and what God's ultimate plan for humanity is. Ezra's dialogue with God reflects a timeless struggle for meaning in a world that often feels chaotic and unjust. By the time we reach the end of 2nd Ezra, we are left with a sobering yet hopeful message. Yes, the world may be destined for great trials, but there is also the promise of redemption. This is the core of 2nd Ezra's message. In the darkest moments, when everything seems to be falling apart, there remains the possibility of renewal, of a new beginning. But understanding this promise first requires a journey through the apocalyptic visions that dominate the text, a journey we'll be taking in the next section. Key visions of the end times in 2nd Ezra. Now that we have a sense of the historical and spiritual context of 2nd Ezra, we can dive into its core content, the apocalyptic visions that detail the end of times. These visions, revealed to Ezra in a series of divine revelations, present a vivid picture of the chaos and judgment that will accompany the final days of the world as we know it. Vision 1. Natural disasters and chaos as signs of the end. The first major vision in 2nd Ezra portrays a world in turmoil where nature itself seems to rebel against humanity. Ezra is shown a series of catastrophic natural events, earthquakes, floods, fires, and other calamities that are described as signs of the approaching end. These disasters are not random occurrences. They are divine warnings, marking the beginning of the end times. This vision paints a picture of a world out of balance, where the natural order is disrupted as a result of humanity's sinfulness. In one passage, Ezra sees entire cities swallowed by floods, while others are consumed by flames. Earthquakes shake the very foundations of the earth, symbolizing a world that can no longer sustain itself. This apocalyptic imagery is striking, not only for its intensity, but also for its resonance with modern-day concerns about climate change, extreme weather, and environmental degradation. The natural disasters described in 2nd Ezra are a reflection of the spiritual decay of the world. As humanity turns away from righteousness and falls into corruption, the earth responds with chaos. This theme of natural disaster as a consequence of moral failure is a common thread in apocalyptic literature. But 2nd Ezra's vision is particularly vivid and haunting in its portrayal of nature's fury. Vision 2. Societal collapse and moral decay. In the second vision, Ezra is shown a world in the midst of social and moral collapse. This vision highlights the breakdown of societal structures as governments crumble, laws are abandoned, and chaos reigns. The imagery here is one of moral decay. People have turned away from justice and righteousness, leading to widespread corruption and lawlessness. Ezra sees rulers who are no longer concerned with the welfare of their people, but are instead driven by greed and self-interest. The social fabric of the world is torn apart, as trust between individuals disintegrates and violence becomes commonplace. This vision serves as a stark warning about the dangers of moral corruption, suggesting that when societies abandon ethical principles, they are doomed to collapse. This vision speaks powerfully to modern audiences, as it mirrors many of the concerns we see in our world today. The erosion of trust in institutions, the rise of inequality, and the breakdown of social cohesion are all issues that resonate with contemporary fears about the future. 2nd Ezra's depiction of societal collapse feels strikingly relevant in a time when many are questioning the stability of our own world order. Vision 3. Divine Judgment and the Fate of Humanity. The third vision is perhaps the most sobering of all. In this vision, Ezra witnesses the final judgment of humanity. God reveals to him the fate of the righteous and the wicked, separating those who have remained faithful from those who have strayed into sin. This vision emphasizes the inevitability of divine judgment, where every individual will be held accountable for their actions. Ezra is shown a world where the wicked are punished with terrifying severity. He sees the destruction of entire nations, the downfall of corrupt leaders, and the suffering of those who have turned away from God. But alongside this destruction, there is also a message of hope for the righteous. While the wicked are cast into darkness, the faithful are promised salvation and a place in the new world that will follow the apocalypse. This vision of divine judgment is a central theme in apocalyptic literature, but 2nd Ezra presents it in a particularly personal and emotional way. Throughout the vision, Ezra is deeply troubled by the suffering he witnesses. He pleads with God for mercy, asking why so many must suffer and whether there is any hope for redemption. This dialogue between Ezra and God adds a layer of emotional depth to the vision, making it not just a prophecy of doom, but also a reflection on the nature of justice and mercy. Ezra's role as a seeker of truth. Throughout these visions, Ezra serves as a guide for the reader, representing the human struggle to understand divine justice and the meaning of suffering. His role is not just that of a passive observer. He actively questions God, seeking answers to the most difficult and painful questions about the fate of humanity. Ezra's dialogues with God are filled with doubt, frustration, and a deep yearning for understanding. He challenges God, asking why the righteous must suffer alongside the wicked, and whether there is any hope for those who repent. These questions resonate with anyone who has ever struggled to make sense of suffering and injustice in the world. In many ways, Ezra's role in 2nd Ezra mirrors the experience of those living through times of crisis. He is a seeker of truth, grappling with the uncertainty and fear that comes with facing an uncertain future. His conversations with God offer a profound reflection on the human condition, showing that even in the face of overwhelming chaos and destruction, the search for meaning and hope continues. Ezra's role also highlights the importance of faith in times of crisis. Despite his doubts and fears, he remains committed to seeking answers from God, and ultimately, his faith is rewarded with visions of hope and redemption. This journey of faith and doubt is one of the most compelling aspects of 2nd Ezra, offering a powerful reminder that in times of darkness, the search for truth and understanding is itself an act of faith. Relevance of 2nd Ezra today. What makes 2nd Ezra such a compelling text is not just its apocalyptic visions, but how these ancient prophecies mirror many of the concerns we face today. Though written centuries ago, the themes of natural disasters, societal collapse, and divine judgment resonate strongly in the modern world, where questions about the future of humanity and the state of the planet are more pressing than ever. Ancient visions, modern concerns. One of the most striking parallels between 2nd Ezra and today's world is its description of natural disasters as signs of the end times. In Ezra's visions, floods, earthquakes, and other calamities signal the unraveling of the natural world, a result of humanity's moral and spiritual failings. Today, we live in an era where extreme weather events, environmental degradation, and climate change are at the forefront of global concern. The language used in 2nd Ezra to describe a world in chaos is eerily similar to the conversations we hear about the planet's future today. For example, the imagery of floods swallowing cities and earthquakes shaking the earth could be seen as ancient descriptions of the kinds of natural disasters we're already witnessing. Hurricanes, wildfires, droughts, these events, increasingly linked to human activity, seem to echo 2nd Ezra's warnings about a world in turmoil. The idea that human actions can disrupt the natural balance is not just a religious concept anymore. It's a scientific reality that we're grappling with. But it's not just the environment that 2nd Ezra speaks to. The text also presents a vision of societal collapse, where justice fails and moral decay leads to widespread chaos. This too feels relevant in a world where social inequality, political instability, and the erosion of trust in institutions are becoming major global challenges. The breakdown of societal structures described in 2nd Ezra seems to mirror the fears many have about the fragility of our modern systems. Whether it's rising corruption, failing governance, or increasing social unrest, the text offers a powerful reflection of the anxieties that many feel about the state of the world. Comparing ancient and contemporary apocalyptic fears. The fears expressed in 2nd Ezra are not unique to its time. Throughout history, humans have looked at the world around them and wondered if they were living in the final days. The apocalyptic themes of destruction and renewal can be found in many cultures and religions, from the Christian book of Revelation to the Norse myth of Ragnarok. What's unique about 2nd Ezra is how deeply personal its vision of the apocalypse is, focusing not just on global events, but on the individual's relationship to divine judgment. In our contemporary context, many people are asking similar questions. Are we living in the end times? Is there a way to turn things around? The doomsday clock, environmental collapse, political unrest. These issues feed into modern apocalyptic thinking. But just as 2nd Ezra offered hope to its ancient audience, reminding them that renewal can follow destruction, it also offers a message for us today. While the challenges we face are daunting, there is always the possibility for redemption and a new beginning, if we are willing to make the necessary changes. Lessons from 2nd Ezra. At its core, 2nd Ezra is not just a text about doom and destruction. It is also a text about hope, redemption, and the possibility of renewal. The visions of societal collapse and natural disasters are frightening, but they are also accompanied by a promise. Those who remain faithful, who seek understanding and righteousness, will be rewarded in the world to come. In today's world, this message can be interpreted in a number of ways. For some, it might serve as a spiritual reminder to stay true to their beliefs and values, even in the face of overwhelming challenges. For others, it might be seen as a call to action, a reminder that in times of crisis, it is important to hold on to hope and work toward positive change. The idea that after chaos there is renewal, that after suffering there is peace, is a powerful message that can resonate with anyone grappling with the uncertainties of our time. Whether it's environmental destruction, political upheaval, or personal crises, the message of 2nd Ezra is that these are not the final chapters of our story. There is always a possibility for renewal, if we have the faith and the will to pursue it. Reflecting on the present through an ancient lens. In the end, 2nd Ezra's relevance to the modern world lies in its ability to reflect our deepest fears while offering a glimmer of hope. The text doesn't shy away from portraying the harsh realities of the world, whether they be natural disasters or societal collapse. But it also reminds us that the end of one era can be the beginning of another. The apocalyptic visions in 2nd Ezra force us to confront the fragility of our world, but they also encourage us to look beyond destruction, toward the possibility of renewal. For modern audiences, this message is more relevant than ever. As we face the challenges of the 21st century, from climate change to political unrest, 2nd Ezra offers a framework for thinking about these issues in a broader, more spiritual context. It asks us to consider not just the immediate crises, but the deeper questions of what it means to live righteously, how we respond to suffering, and what kind of future we want to create. Hope amidst destruction. While much of 2nd Ezra is focused on destruction, chaos, and divine judgment, one of the most compelling aspects of the text is its underlying message of hope. Despite the apocalyptic visions that depict the world unraveling, 2nd Ezra consistently points to the possibility of renewal and peace. This promise of hope serves as a counterbalance to the grim imagery of the end times, offering a spiritual perspective on overcoming global crises. The promise of renewal in the midst of destruction, 2nd Ezra introduces a unique vision of hope for the future. The text suggests that after the trials and tribulations of the apocalypse, there will be a time of renewal, a world reborn, where peace and justice prevail. This new world is described as a place where the righteous will flourish and the faithful will be rewarded. It is a vision of a restored order, where the suffering of the righteous will be redeemed, and the mistakes of the past will be corrected. This promise of renewal is central to the spiritual message of 2nd Ezra. It reminds the reader that even though the world may seem to be falling apart, there is always the potential for a new beginning. The disasters and judgments described in the text are not the end of the story. They are part of a process that leads to a more just and peaceful world. This idea of a renewed world is a common theme in apocalyptic literature, but 2nd Ezra's portrayal of it is particularly hopeful, emphasizing that faith and perseverance through hardship will ultimately lead to redemption. The fate of the righteous. A key part of the hope offered in 2nd Ezra is the fate of the righteous. Throughout the text, God reassures Ezra that those who have remained faithful will not be forgotten. While the wicked are doomed to destruction, the righteous are promised salvation and a place in the new world that will emerge after the apocalypse. This promise provides a sense of purpose and meaning in the midst of the suffering and chaos that defines the end times. The text makes it clear that the trials of the apocalypse serve as a test of faith. Those who endure these hardships with their faith intact will be rewarded. In this way, 2nd Ezra offers a message of hope not only for the world as a whole, but also for individuals who remain committed to their spiritual path. This personal redemption is a powerful aspect of the text, as it reassures the faithful that their suffering is not in vain and that they will ultimately find peace in the world to come. Overcoming global crises with a spiritual perspective in today's world. The message of 2nd Ezra provides a spiritual lens through which to view the crises we face. The apocalyptic events described in the text, natural disasters, societal collapse, and divine judgment, may feel distant in some ways, but they also echo many of the concerns we grapple with in modern times. Environmental degradation, political instability, and social upheaval can often seem overwhelming, leading many to feel a sense of despair about the future. 2nd Ezra, however, offers a reminder that destruction is not the final word. It suggests that crises, while painful and difficult, can be moments of transformation. Just as the world in 2nd Ezra is renewed after the apocalypse, there is hope that we too can find a way to rebuild and restore balance in our own time. The promise of renewal after destruction encourages us to look beyond the immediate chaos and consider the long-term possibilities for healing and growth. For modern audiences, this message of hope is particularly resonant. It offers a way to cope with the uncertainties of the present by focusing on the potential for renewal in the future. While 2nd Ezra does not downplay the seriousness of the challenges we face, it provides a spiritual framework for understanding them as part of a larger process of transformation and redemption. A message of hope in dark times. Ultimately, 2nd Ezra's message is one of hope amid destruction. It acknowledges the suffering and chaos that accompany the end times, but emphasizes that these are not the final chapters. The apocalyptic visions serve as a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there is the possibility of a new beginning. For those who remain faithful and committed to righteousness, there is the promise of a world where peace and justice prevail. In the end, 2nd Ezra offers a powerful spiritual perspective on overcoming global crises. It challenges us to hold on to hope, even when the world seems to be falling apart, and to trust that after the storm, there will be renewal. This message of hope, rooted in faith and perseverance, is as relevant today as it was in ancient times.